Hello everybody, my name is Joey. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to bezel a stone and make a ring / pendant. You can do either way. Many of you, I can't even count how many, have asked me since I started wearing this ring to please do a tutorial on this ring. And the reason that I didn't is because this opal cabochon was among my mother's things when she passed away, and I've had it for many years and did not know what to do with it. I actually had a bag with a few opal cabochons that she left behind, and my friend Gail, who is so experienced and such an amazing bead weaver, she was here for a gathering, and I said, oh, you can pick one out and take it for yourself. I'll share, and so she picked this out, and instead of doing it for herself, she did the bezel for me, and then she gave it to me and said, you can put whatever band you want on it. So I did the band and she did the bezel. So it's doubly precious to me because it was something left from my mom, and one of my dear friends put her handiwork to this, so it was really special to me. And so I didn't honestly know exactly what she did for the bezel, but we went to our Bead Society meeting together and she showed me what she did. And so I did this one at our Bead Society meeting, and then I've come home and on my own just done a couple so that I could give you guys the tips and tricks to really be successful if you want to bezel a stone. It's a very simple bezel, but it is beautiful. It's kind of like a one and done. There's a lot more elaborate bezels than this. There are ones that you go back and add extra embellishments and extra frills, but this one is quite simple. It's beautiful front and back. There's the back side. So, you can actually decide when you get started if you want to do the top the same as the bottom, or you can play with your stone before you cinch it up. You can play with your stone and decide if you like it that way or if you like it with the 15-0 seed beads, and you can play with your patterns, which is what I've done. And so this one is complete, but I didn't put the band on all the way because to me this is the trickiest part, and I think my friend Gail would agree too. That's the trickiest part. It's not hard, and it's just getting in the right spot. So I left that off so that I could show you how to complete your band. I also have a really long tail thread because the other thing that I like to do, there are several ways when you're doing odd count peyote of how to turn around. And what I mean by odd count is I have 5 rows here. All of my rings have 5 rows of 11-0 Delicas. For me, that is the sweet spot, and I love that odd count. It's just the right size for a 14mm stone, or even this one is larger. But, with odd count, and those of you that know peyote, you know that on one side there is nowhere else to go to pop your bead in between. And so this method, the traveling tail method, is one of many ways to do that, but that makes the thread absolutely invisible, and it's so easy. And so I have a long tail, and I'm going to show you how to do it all in one thread if you want to. On this one, I finished my bezel and then snipped off my thread and then loaded another needle and added my band into it, but it is possible to do it all on one thread if you want to take a wingspan and get it done all in one thread. So those are the tips and tricks. That's why I've done so many. And this is what I did on the back of this one. This is what the front looks like. I added some extra rows on this one, and when we get started, I'll show you when you're going to make those design decisions. But this one, I just absolutely love the way they're turning out. And so let me show you what I'm using here. All of my chatons are from this little assortment of 14mm chatons, and I can link this for you. But another great place if you need a stone is Potomac beads. They are just wonderful. And so what I'm going to do today is this larger, this 18mm, and I can show you what this is. This is a Potomac Crystal Rivoli, and it's the Color Shift Pandora, and this is an 18mm stone, and they come in a pack of 2. And so I am going to turn this one into a pendant because it's, it would be a beautiful ring if you want like a cocktail ring. And this one is 16mm. So this one is just a little bit bigger. And I'm going to pop a chart up on the screen. I'll let it stay up a little bit so that you can take a screenshot, because really you can work with almost anything that you have if you get your first row of beads, the count correct for the size of stone. And so my friend Gail shared this chart with me, and I kind of retyped and made it pretty. So any of you that want a screenshot of it and put it in your jewelry files for reference, it is there for you. And so what else did I want to tell you? Oh, what I was going to tell you about, I have so much to share on this project because it's such a long time coming. And I've for probably, I don't even know how long, it was, almost a year I've been receiving comments about making this ring. But for the 18 millimeter, I am going to turn this one into a pendant. And that's why I left this one open, because finishing the pendant is going to be slightly different. I'm going to do this bit exactly the same, but instead of doing the whole ring band and coming back around here to make a ring, I'm going to make a bail. I'm going to do a little peyote stitch bail that is just large enough for one of my chains to slide through, and I'm going to do a pendant with this larger crystal. So it will be slightly different, and that's why I left this one to show you. So I'm going to set this aside until we actually get to that. And I'm going to talk to you about what you need to do this. So you will need a 15-0 seed bead. I have pretty much on all of my 15-0s, that's that smaller bead on the inside, chosen a metallic, either copper or gold, or this is like a metallic burnt orange. You don't have to, but for me, I like that metallic little frame on the inside of the ring. And then you will need an 11-0 Delica, and I've done 2 colors on all of my rings. Like this one is a really pretty matte gold, and then like a clear orange. And let's see, what did I do on this one? This one is a copper 11-0 Delica and a lavender 11-0 Delica. This one is like a mauvey pink and a purple AB Delica. So, and Gail did mine here with like a pearl white and a gold, champagne gold Delica. So you could do that. It's only 2 rows of peyote stitch with the Delicas. So it's pretty. You kind of get a little bit of a checkerboard design. So it's pretty with the 2 colors. So if you have 2 Delicas that you like that are coordinating, I would start with that, because that's what I'm going to show you. And then your 15-0s can be, let's see, on this one I actually have 2 different colors of 15-0s. I have the metallic burnt orange and this bright gold. So you need at least 1 color. And again, it doesn't have to be metallic. For a ring, I really like the look of that kind of metal. My other advice is, let me find a tube so that I can show you. My other advice, this is the Delica that I used. It's champagne. That's the one that I used for this band. Because these are rings, I would definitely spend a little bit of extra money and look for the galvanized finish on your seed beads. It looks like, let me see, like this one says Duracoat galvanized. This one says galvanized. They have different different ways of saying it, but the reason you want that, even if it's not a metallic for a ring, is that the color is really, really long lasting. It won't start to rub off, especially on metallics where it's touching your skin. And then you can wash your hands with your ring on if you do a galvanized seed bead. So for rings, I really would, and for this kind of work, I really would invest a little bit extra. Here's one that's Miyuki 11-0 Delica galvanized yellow gold. So if you're not familiar with like different levels of seed beads, that would be my advice. Okay, you're also going to need either an 11 or a 12 beading needle. I've used both. I'll link these below. I just found these. It has the number 12. There are 2 of them, 2 number 11s and 2 number 10s. And because we'll be passing through a 15-0 seed bead a few times, a 12 size 12 needle is really good. And you will need some 6-pound wildfire. This is what I am using. I'll link some wildfire for you. My friend Gail, who is really, really talented at this, recommends the 6-pound and not to go up to 10-pound because it will be bigger. And the goal for me with any of my projects is not to see the thread. So 6-pound, I'm using crystal, but I was going to show you guys with this traveling tail method. Let me take this one off. I did this one. I was at my Bead Society meeting and my friend had only black. And I said, oh, I'm doing pink and purple. I don't want black thread. And she said, oh, you won't see it. So this traveling tail method is so well, does so well that you cannot see that this ring is made with a black thread. You don't see the thread at all, like not anywhere. And so that's always my goal, is even when I'm reinforcing, to find my bead path so that I do not see my thread, and it just makes your work look, such high quality. And I absolutely love my rings. Okay, so I hope you guys took a screenshot of the chart if this is something you're interested in, because this is this is what you're going to need to really start any of your cabochons that you have, or chatons. And so just for the difference, for those of you that are brand new to this, a cabochon is this with a flat back. And so you can use that, or a chaton, which is a crystal with a pointed back. Can you see the little point? And they work the same, and these rings are super comfortable. So these are all chatons that I've done here. And I just I had my ring on for the last 2 days, and I forget that it's on my hand. So for the 18 millimeter Rivoli, I need 46 Delicas on my thread. And so I've already done that, so you won't have to sit and watch me string it. And I've alternated a really bright pink with this really pretty turquoise green. And again, I just pulled the colors because of the colors in my Rivoli. This is what I've chosen for this particular stone, so I'll just lay it in there. And that's kind of what I do to choose my colors, is choose my stone first and then kind of see what's in there. So my green one is this beautiful, it's like a duck egg blue, and this is from my Adornable Elements Delica Beads of the Month Club, left over from months back. And then this other Delica I got on clearance somewhere, and it is an 11.0 Delica, and I don't know what the color is on that, but I just like the brightness with the stone. And then I have some Miyuki 15.0 galvanized Duracoat seed beads for my little tiny bead, and that's what I will be beading from. I always link these little trays. It's a set of two, like a larger one and a smaller one, and they're just so nice for picking up tiny beads. And then I have put my stop bead on, but I have put it on where I have a really long tail. I know you can't see it, and I'm actually using a little piece of the 6-pound Wildfire in the smoke color. I thought you might be able to see a little bit better, but the reason I'm leaving such a long tail is because of that traveling tail method. So if you were doing a long project, with a bracelet or something, in odd count peyote, you would need to either add in thread or really leave a long enough tail for the entire length of your piece. You don't need as much for rings and pendants, but your tail thread travels along your peyote stitch along with your working thread, so you can't leave a normal shorter tail. So I've kind of come down here, since I only have to make enough peyote stitch for a little bail on this. I won't need a lot, but I do need a tail thread that's going to travel along as I make that turn, and I'll show you that when we get to it. So to start out with, because we are working with a round Rivoli, we have to make a ring. So you're just going to get these in a ring and run your needle back through that very first bead. And you guys, that have done this before, you know that this first part is a little bit wiggly. It's just the nature of it, but very quickly, it very quickly does firm up. So you only want to make a little ring there, and I'm just going to turn it because I'm right hand dominant, because I like to work that way. And so I am coming out of this pink bead, and I'm going to pick up my alternate color, which is this duck egg blue. I might need to get some more out, but I'll do that. And I'm going to skip over the duck egg blue one and put my needle through the next pink one. Your tension is really important here. Don't pull this really tight. Don't make your ring super tight. I don't mean your finished ring, I mean your initial ring. Don't make it super tight, but you do need to get your peyote stitch in there. So and when you start out, like, you just have to kind of fiddle with it. And like, I want to get those my first two beads sitting right beside each other. I use my needle to do that. So those first two beads are sitting right beside each other. And then I'm coming out of this pink one, and I'm going to just all the way around pick up one of my green beads and skip a bead and go into the next bead. And it's just normal peyote stitch, but in a ring, in a circle, going into a circle. And you know, you can, I am typically a very tight bead weaver, but so you just want to watch your tension, because you do need to pull things into place, but you don't want to pull this so that these are so tight. I don't know if that makes sense, but you know, you want to get in there where you can definitely see your peyote. 2 beads, 1 bead, 2 beads, 1 bead, and all the way around like that. So I'm going to pick up a bead. I'm going to skip over this one. So I always look to see where my thread is coming out, and I don't want to put my needle through that next one. I want to skip that one and put my needle through the next one. So one of the things that happens with peyote stitch, whether you're doing it in a circle or flat, is that this first row tends to want to twist. So I have the habit of using my needle, first of all, to make sure that my beads are sitting so that I see that pattern, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. And then I have the habit of putting my thumb over my work. So I'm going to pick up another bead and skip one and put my needle through one. And I have the habit of putting my thumb over while I pull. It keeps the first initial rows of the peyote from twisting, and it also kind of helps keep your tension right. But see, like, that bead did not go in, to give it a little tug. It didn't go in so that it was perfectly lined up with the next one. So get your circle in just like this, and I'm going to go all the way around doing exactly that until we come back to that first bead. Okay, this is my last one. I've picked up my last Delica, and I'm going to skip the bead I'm coming out of, this pink one, and go into that where I first started. And so my needle's coming out of that pink one, but I need to get up into this row, so I need to step up. So I'm going to pull my needle back and step up all at the same time in a single pass. And so my needle is now in position to switch to my 15-0s. And I've kind of pulled my stop bead. I'm letting this tail just hang out. So, and I kept this from twisting by holding my thumb over it. So that's what my peyote stitch ring looks like. And you know, it's still a little wobbly. So now it becomes really easy though, because now in between every one of these Delicas that's sticking out, I'm going to pick up a 15-0. In my case, I'm using a gold 15-0, and I'm going to go through the next Delica that's sticking out. This is a normal peyote stitch, and you can start to tug a little bit and start to close your circle a little bit after you get partially the way around. So I'm just going to pop a 15-0 in between every one of my sticking out Delicas all the way around. One of the tricks as well that my friend Gail and I found, you know, works well in doing these rings is going from side to side. So after I have the 15-0s on the outer side, I can work my needle through and then do my 15-0s on the inner side, and then, you know, work my needle at an angle back through and do another, like, in other words, working on the outside, then on the inside, as you add these rows in, and that can help give you a nice even peyote stitch. And it's kind of fun at this point because now you can like start to kind of play with, you know, putting your stone in there, and you really already, it's very gratifying because you can already see the fruits of your labor. And it's I meant to tell you when I started too, it's been taking me around 2 hours to do a ring from start to finish, band and everything. So it's really not a, you know, huge commitment in time to have something so beautiful at the end. Okay, so I've come back around. I have a 15-0 in between every Delica all the way around my little ring. And so here's where I was saying, if you want to, you can go at a diagonal through to this side. So the bead you're coming out, and at a diagonal, always following that thread path so that you don't see your thread. And you're going to come to this side and do a round of the 15-0s in between the Delicas. So you can just turn your work around, get that tail thread out of your way, and I'll be going in this direction now. You don't have to do that. You can stay on one side, but it's just a little trick that you can do to kind of keep your bezel even. And you know, this tail thread can be a pain because it's long. It's you know, it's quite long. And you can pull your stop bead off if that's getting in your way. But I'm just leaving it because that tail thread, it really will be useful. It makes such a pretty odd count peyote to have that traveling thread. I love it. It's pretty much the only way that I do my odd count peyote anymore. Okay, this is my last one on this side. Popping that 15-0 in between those two green Delicas. And so in order to step up, I'm going through the green Delica. That's going to put this 15-0 right where I want it and put me in position to do my next row. I am going to stay on this side, but like I said, if you want, and of course I have a tangle on my last one. How do these things happen? I'm just going to pop that into place, and I am going to stay on this side. I'm going to go ahead and stay on this side and get this tail thread out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and stay on this side to do my next row and start tugging a little bit. And you know, you can pop your crystal in at any time to check and see how your sizing is doing. So this next row of the 15-0 golds is going to cinch this in even more. So I'm going to pick up another one and go around again. Now this time I'll be going into the next 15-0. This first row I was popping a gold in between each of those green Delicas, but this time I'm popping another gold 15-0 in between the 15-0s of the last row. I'm just going to do that all the way around and start to tug a little bit, start to curve it so that it will capture my stone. Okay, so I'm on my last one. I'm going to go through. I'm popping this gold seed bead in between those two, and I'm not going to be able to step up all in one pass this time, but that's okay. It's in there, and I'm just going to give it a tug. So see, I have this really pretty curve. And so now from here, I can step up to this row by just putting my needle through the next gold seed bead that's sitting a little bit higher. And I can do another row here, or I can go at a diagonal to this side and start working on the back. So I'm going to pop my little stone, my crystal in here and see how it's looking. Oh my, it's so gorgeous. And you can always come back, like you can always go to the back side of your stone and work on it. And if you decide that you want a third, row of of 15-0s or even a different color of 15-0, you can always do that. I'm pretty happy with it, and I don't want to cover up too much of this color shifting stone because it's just so beautiful. So I'm going to, coming out of this gold seed bead right here, I don't want to see my thread, so I'm going to add a diagonal, work my way. I was able to do it all in one pass because my stitches are, you know, really tight and nice and lined up. And I'm going to get myself to this side. And I'm really going to do exactly the same thing. And you can either put your stone in at this point and, you know, try to hang on to it in there, or you can do a quarter of the way on the back side and then pop it in, you know, whatever feels right, whatever is not going to be too difficult for you to hold on to. I'm going to go ahead and put mine in. I can do it both ways. I've done it both ways, and it is the same thing. I'm going to pick up another 15-0, and I'm coming out of this 15-0, so I'm going to go through the next one, and I'm going to go all the way around, and, you know, pulling a little bit now. At this point, if you pull, you'll feel that you're just pulling from, you know, pulling the other side, but it will start to cinch up the same way that the front side did. And this is a little bit in the way, but I left my stop bead on there. It just helps to differentiate that tail, and that little bit of weight too makes it kind of flop out of your way. So, but you need that tail when we get to that point. So pick up a 15-0, coming out of a 15-0, go through the next one. And I'm just going to do that all the way around. Okay, this is my last bead on this row on the back. And if you're at this point, you're doing this along with me, this is where you're going to have a look at your work and make a decision. So for me, it's pretty firm. I actually love the front side. I really don't want to fill in any more of my crystal. I really want to see that much of my crystal. And I can reinforce, and I could actually be done right here and reinforce, but this is still moving a little bit on my stone. So I think that I am going to step up. I'm coming out of this bead here, and I'm going to step up and do another row of my 15-0 golds. If you wanted to change color at this point, since it's the back, but I do want the back of my work to be just as pretty as the front, and I feel like it needs a little bit more on the back. So I am going to do another row, just like I've been doing. Pick up a 15-0. I'm coming out of a 15-0 and go through the next one that's sticking out. So basically just filling in those spaces. And I am going to start to pull. See how when I pull tight, I am going to start to pull even more tightly. And when I get to the end, and it just really, you can reinforce if you want to or need to. It really depends on if you're a super tight beader or not, and even the seed beads that you've chosen to work with. So for me, I'm a pretty tight beader, so I don't usually have to do a lot of reinforcing, but sometimes it just makes things nicer. It firms everything up and makes it, you know, completely stable. It's already looking so much better, just this little bit of a third row on the back, and I'm just going to keep giving it a little tug and hugging those beads down to the back of my chaton. Okay, I'm on my last bead that I'm adding in on that third row of 15-0s, and it feels pretty good. Just gonna make sure that my stone is sitting centered, and if mine feels pretty good, but I am still going to go around another time and just reinforce and pull tight. So in order to do that, I'm coming out of this second row. I need to, at an angle, come up to my next 15-0 and get through it. And I'm just going to do a couple beads at a time and just pull that tight as I go around and just make it nice and firm. Okay, so in my reinforcing, I went around until I've gotten over here to my tail thread, and this is where it becomes interesting because I'm pulling this tight. Look how great that looks. It's so beautiful. It's just so, so beautiful. So I'm gonna pull nice and tight my way up to a Delica. And why this is so interesting, just at an angle so that I don't see my thread, is that I'm going to use the Delicas that are in the bezel as my first row for whether this is a ring band or a bail. But I'm going to use that, and so from here you really just have to decide what color you want your, in this case it's going to be the bail. So I am coming out of this green Delica right here, and that's going to be my first bead in my row of 5, and I think I'm going to do this all in, do I want to alternate? Maybe I'll keep this pattern going. So I'm going to put a bead in between these 2 green, and I'm going to pick up one of my bright pink beads, and I'm going to go through the next Delica in my bezel. Just like that. And then my next one again would be a pink, and I'm going to go through the next green Delica. Whoops, not 2, just 1. And then I'm going to pick up a green and turn around. So I'm coming out of this green one here, so I'm going to go in the opposite direction through my pink, and then pick up a green and go through the next pink, and now here's my 5th bead, so I need to pick up a green. So now what I'm going to do is pull this stop bead off of my tail thread, and I'm going to thread a needle on this side of my tail thread and just weave it through so that it's coming out in the same place as my working thread. So I'm over here with my tail thread. This right here is my tail thread, and I need to get over here. So I'm just going to go at an angle this way and just weave back in. Zigzag a little bit. You just have to zigzag a little bit to get the thread to be at the same place as my working thread. I'm going to come back through here and be coming out there. Okay, I can take that needle off, and there's my tail thread. Get it on this side. I'm going to put that tail thread over my finger like that, and I'm going to pick up one of my green beads, and I'm going to put my needle underneath my tail thread, but I need my bead to stay on this side of the tail thread. So you might want to have that kind of tight, and see how it pulls it right into place. And I'm looping around my tail thread, which is wrapped around my finger. So this thread here, and I'm going to go back down through that bead that I just added. And when I pull, that is in place, and you'll see it more when we do a little bit, but when I tug here, it's pulling my traveling tail inside that Delica a little bit, and it makes it just sit right in place and the thread disappears. So now I'm going to continue with my pattern. I'm going to pick up a pink, go through my next Delica sticking out, pick up a pink, go through my next Delica sticking out, and now I'm going to switch back to my green, and I'm going to go back up through that pink, and that little Delica is going to pop right into place if my thread weren't twisted, just like that. And I'm going to pick up another green and go through my next pink. And this is with Odd Count Peyote. I'm at the top again where there is nowhere for me to go to fill in. There is no sticking out bead. So I'm going to tighten that tail thread around my finger, take my working thread here, pick up my green bead, and do that same thing again. I'm going to go under my tail thread as it's wrapped around, pull it kind of tight, and pull so that my Delica stays on the right side of the tail thread. And when I do that, see how it pulls it right into place? But to secure it, I have to go back down through. So just to secure that loop, go back down through. And I want to put my thumb over it a little bit, but when I pull, can you see what happens? That little loop pulls the tail thread, and it just pulls it, like cinches it right inside, and it disappears. And it's so beautiful. And so what I'm going to do is make my bail. I'm going to continue like that until I have a nice bail loop, and I'll go get the chain that I plan to wear this on so that I can make sure that my lobster claw on that chain fits through this bail and my pendant is going to hang like that. So I'm just going to keep going like that, filling in, keeping my pattern going, alternating green, pink, green, pink. And if I were turning this into a ring, I would do this. I would make it the length that I need for my ring band, and then I would come over to this side, and again, those last two sticking out Delicas fit into my pattern right on my bezel, and you reinforce. But I saved this so that I could show you exactly how to do it in case it feels a little confusing, because for me this was all super easy. This part here where you continue with your peyote right off of your bezel, that was the tricky part for me. But I did work it out, and I feel like it's pretty easy. And to make it even easier, like if you wanted to do this in a solid bead and not have to worry about the alternating colors, that's quite easy to do, like I did here. And even here I just did a solid color for my ring band, so that is an option. And the other option is I left a long tail thread when I started my first circle of beads so that I would not have to add in thread, so that I could go right from my bezel into this bit. But you don't have to do that. You could always weave back through and just have your bezeled cabochon or chaton, and then add in thread and do it, with a separate thread. You can do it that way as well. And I have done most of mine that way, except for this one and this one, because I wanted to see if I could make that work, because it's a little bit easier not to have to add in thread. And I was able to make it work. As you see, it looks great. So I'm going to keep going. And so with Odd Count Peyote, one side is quite easy to turn around because there is a sticking out bead. So I pick up my bead and go through. I'm just reiterating because I know this can be confusing. And so you get that next Delica popped into place pretty easily. And of course this middle row is easy because you're going in between your two sticking out beads and filling in, and it pops right into place. But on Odd Count Peyote, when you get to one of the sides, there is nowhere for you to go. And so this traveling tail method is so great. So I just put my tail tightly over my finger, pick up my seed bead, go underneath, and you can make sure it's nice and tight, and you're adding on Delica. The bead you're adding on stays on the right side of your tail thread. And when you pull, you made that little loop. Sometimes it goes into place, sometimes it doesn't. But I've made that loop, and now I'm going to go back down through that same bead that I just added in. And when I pull, it's secure in place. And when I give it a little tug, my tail thread just went, like it just got sucked right inside a little bit. And you do not see that that's black thread. You don't see the thread at all, which, as I said early on, for me, when I'm doing bead weaving, that's always my goal, is not to see any of my thread, just to see the beautiful pattern of the beads. Okay, so my bail looks like that, and you want to pay attention when you're coming to the end of your peyote stitch as to whether you finish, when it's odd count, on the 2 beads sticking up or the 3 beads sticking up. So in this case, I connected with the 3 beads. Let me see if I can turn it this way so you can see. It's better. I connected right here on the 3 beads, and this is really just, I have a bead on here, my last bead is on here, but this is really just a really design decision that you will make. I decided that I was going to fold my bail over and connect it just like that. And the way that I determined that is just the size of this little loop here. And this is one of the chains that I could possibly wear it on. So I can either squeeze that lobster claw, it doesn't matter as long as one end of my chain, you know, easily. So my jump ring will slide through there and I'll be able to wear this on a gold chain. That was my plan. Also, leather cord is really pretty to change up the look of this. You could also, like I sat here and played with this a little bit to see if I wanted to have it connected on the front, and I liked it better the other way. So you can really do it either way. And if I wanted to turn this into a ring, which it's an 18mm Rivoli, but it would be a beautiful cocktail ring, I would keep going and choose a spot over here. So that's the only, really for me, the tricky part is deciding if I want to stop my length at the 3 beads sticking up or the 2 beads sticking up. In this case, it would be my green, my duck egg green. If I had stopped on the row previous, I would have 2 pink beads sticking up because I alternated. So I don't know if that makes any sense. When I hear myself explaining things, sometimes I think I sound crazy. But I'm going to do my last, I'm going to add in my last Delica here and turn around. Pull that little guy into place. And now I'm going to come back on this side. My tail thread is pretty long and my working thread has gotten a little bit short, so I may take my needle off my working side and go over here just to reinforce this little loop. But I'm going to come my power just went off and came back on, but the camera is still recording, so I'm going to keep going. That was strange. What I'm going to do is line up my green beads here, which, like I said, for me this was the trickiest part, and I just want to get my needle in that Delica that's part of my bezel where I'm going to sew them together. And you know, it is tricky because you want it to look continuous. You want to sew this into what you've already done. So I won't lie, it is a little tricky. But you go slowly and look at what you're doing, and you've been doing peyote stitch. So once you've done all this peyote, you can pretty much see where where continuation, what it would look like. So I'm just going to play for a second here, get these threads out of the way, and do my best to get my needle through only that one bead, which I did it. And that's just going to line it up. I'm going to do my best to show you. It's tricky because, you know, you have to kind of get your needle into what's already pretty tight. So now that's my first little attachment to my existing bezel, and now I'm going to come through that bead again, and I'm going to go back and forth, reinforcing and, you know, doing the very best that I can to keep hiding my thread. So sticking with that thread path. So the next bead would be one of my 15-0s. Just going to wiggle my needle. You know, on this part you may have to do go through one bead at a time, but it's not that much. It's only a little 5-row bail, so be patient. I'm going to pick up that pink bead, pull tight, and then I'm going to go through my middle green bead and pull tight. And what comes next on my bezel would be this gold 15-0 in the second row. So I'm kind of connecting to the second row of my 15-0 on the back side, and then go through my Delica here on my bezel, and I always check where I'm coming out just to make sure that where I'm going to put my needle next is going to be the best way to hide my thread. So I'm coming out that pink one, and I'm going to come through this green one. And since I have more tail thread here, I'm going to kind of go to the back and tie this off and switch my needle to the tail thread and just continue to reinforce, just getting my beads all to stay in line and just continuing to reinforce so my bail is nice. It's not a heavy pendant, but I do want it to be nice and secure. So yeah, I'm going to take my needle off of this shorter one and just do a couple of overhand knots kind of on the back. Opposite direction. I'm right hand dominant, so when I'm doing right over left, left over right, I just turn my work. So I make sure that I'm actually doing it in the opposite direction. And pull really tight. You could also weave this thread back in, but that was a good spot for me there to tie off. Honestly, I could be done, but I am going to go ahead and use what's left of my tail thread just to make it a little bit more secure since I have some left. I'm just going to drop my chain through my little bail. Isn't that so pretty? What a gorgeous pendant. And I have some leather cords too that I can also change the look of it if I don't want to do it on gold. I have a purple metallic that would be pretty. So I just love that. I love doing this as a ring or as a pendant. I think it's really gorgeous. And so I'm just going to show you really quickly, if you were going to do a ring instead of a pendant, it's almost the same thing. But on this one, what I decided that I would finish on my sticking out beads. So it's the same thing. It's 5 rows, and I've finished with 2 of my Delicas that are sticking out, because when I come over to this side and it's, you know, it's finding the spot, you just have to take your time, because you want to come directly across, of course, so that your band is not twisted, but you want to come directly across and find that spot. And I know that I am connecting on the bottom row of my Delicas on this one. And so just kind of like, I don't know if you can see, but my 2 gold Delicas that are sticking out on my band are going to get sewn right in between and fill in those spaces just as if it was a continuous row. So I'm going to just get in here. I have it lined up, and I'm going to get in here and just, you know, do the same thing that I did. Get my needle through one bead at a time and just get it stitched down into place, that tail thread out of there. And then I'm going to go through my sticking out bead. And then I'm going to, go right into my existing pattern on my bezel. And so on a ring, what's nice about this is I wrapped this ring. I didn't even use my ring mandrel. I wrapped it around my finger as I was nearing the end. I made a loop. You don't want to get a loop. It's not straight stitching, so that will happen. But see what I'm doing? I just want to pull that right into the existing row. And so what I was saying is you can tack this down, just do one pass and then try it on and see if in fact you got your size right. And if you didn't at that point, it's really easy to pull this one little row out and either take away or add a row if you need to. So I'm coming out here and I'm going to just push this up into place and see if I were adding this in as a row, what would my row be? See how I'm just attaching my existing peyote I'm attaching my band to my existing peyote. I said that backwards. But it just goes right in. You just line it up, take your time, and you'll see I'm coming out this Delica, and the next one in the zipper kind of pattern would be this Delica. And once you have that first little row in place, it becomes much easier to, get it in there. So I'm going to turn around now, just like that. And so you see how just seamless that is. This peyote on the bezel just blends right in with the band. And so now I'm going to go back and forth a couple of times just to make sure that my ring is nice and strong. And, keeping my needle in at a diagonal, so I'm following the thread path. So when I pull, that thread is gone. It just disappears. And you can zigzag like up into your bezel a little bit to make it strong, and do it until you feel like it's secure. So my other ring is done, which I thought was a little bit autumnal. I thought that was really, really pretty, and I'm so thrilled to have a pendant. And I thank my friend Gail for doing this little surprise for me, and it was so inspiring. Her gift was so inspiring that, as you can see, I kept going with it, and it was so fun to work on this with her a little bit. And so you guys take a screenshot of that chart so that no matter what size stone you would like to try to bezel, your starting amounts of Delicas. It really is a good starting point. And don't be intimidated. I hope that, as intimidating as this looked to me, I hope that I've demystified this project a little bit. And I thank you so much for watching. If you tap more underneath the video title, I will put links to Potomac beads is a great place for chatons and Delicas and 15-0 seed beads. And I'll put all the links when I edit. I'll look at all the things that I used, my needles, my thread, and list all of that for you if you want to gather some things for this project. Thanks a lot, everybody. See you in the next video.